giving up means, okay, I'm upset with this world, I'm not getting any happiness, so I'm leaving everything and I'm going off to the Himalayas to meditate. You cannot stay for more than a week, you will come back like a homing pigeon. But letting go means, I decide this world is the same even if I go to the Himalayas or where I'm staying here, because when I go to the Himalayas I carry my mind. The mind is a mischief maker, not the world.
Hello everyone and a very warm welcome to the PVT show powered by Conscious Core Leadership, where we have conversations that truly energize your mind. Well, my endeavor is to bring to you the real essence of mind power, human emotions, resilience, neuroscience and spirituality put together to help the corporate folks enhance their mental strength, leading you to evolve as the real conscious leaders of your careers and life. Ladies and gentlemen, with great honor, let me introduce you to the first guest on my show. He is truly an extraordinary individual, a Himalayan yogi, a revered spiritual leader, someone who has lived many lives in one life, amongst the very few still on this earth who you can reach out and talk to. His autobiography, when released, became an instant national bestseller, a recipient of Padma Bhushan, one of the highest civilian honors for his extensive contribution in the field of spiritual leadership and humanity. Well, I'm so blessed and so very honored to interview the master himself. One of the finest and deepest conversations, my friends, I've ever had in my life, and the list of what we spoke is really long. This interview is to bring his extensive wisdom of spirituality to the corporate world, because I firmly believe with AI on its rise, it is so much more important today to build conscious leaders as well as highly conscious organizations. We shot this podcast at his beautiful ashram at Manambapalle, 3 hours from Bangalore. We spoke at length on various subjects and topics like consciousness, Atman, Bhagvad Geeta, karmas to business goals, targets, KPIs, ethical leadership in the AI-led world. You will need to consume and assimilate all the wealth of this information and knowledge very peacefully. This mesmerizing conversation was shot straight in 1.5 hours without a single break in between, not even a sip of water. You won't believe he spoke, uncovered so many hidden layers of reality, and I simply listened. As you consume it, you might get answers to the most nagging questions of your careers maybe. So sit back, relax, put your headphones on, or even better on a Friday evening, sit with your teams together and watch it for an inclusive learning session together as a team. Without much ado, let's meet the master himself, Sir Srim. Thank you so much, sir. First of all, huge thanks. I am full of, what should I say? I don't have words. Gratitude, happiness, bliss. Your team told me that when you are sitting with Shriyam himself, must bring your papers because you are going to forget your questions. And I am so glad that I heard and followed them, because that is what I'm feeling right now.
Got your papers. Good, I'm glad. Yeah, because it happens sometimes. Yeah. So
I want to begin by asking you a question. This entire conversation we are doing to uplift and bring, explain and then bring consciousness, element of consciousness in the corporate people. Both the word starts with C, and that's the magic. But somewhere we chasing constant goals and targets, I believe that element of consciousness, and that's why even after achieving targets there is something which is amiss. What do you have to say about it?
Okay, it's interesting because I want to tell you a little story. You know, the great Ved-Vyasa, who did all the Vedas, kind of compiled the Vedas into Rig Veda, Yajurveda, Samaveda and so on. Before that it was just a mixed up body of literature. Who wrote the Bhagavad Geeta, who wrote the Brahma Sutras, which are highly intellectual exercise in finding out consciousness and so on. After having done all that, he was sitting on the banks of a river, and there was something very quiet, not okay with him from his expression, that not satisfied, not happy. So the story is, such points the great Narada appears, you know, with his veena from the sky, and comes down and says, Narayan, Narayan. And then he says, you don't look happy. You've done the Brahma Sutras, which are the highest literature on consciousness or how to find yourself. You've done the Mahabharata, you've done the Vedas. There's something missing. What's it? He says, I understand that the heart is missing. He said, so what do I do about it? So Narada says, write the lives and the leelas of the Lord. So write the Bhagavatam. So the Srimad Bhagavat was written, which while describing creation and everything, mainly concentrates on Krishna and his life and his leelas. Okay, major part of it. Because the problem, I think, is that caught up in the intellectual understanding of the Brahma Sutras, for instance, in this context.
Right.
One misses the heart of the matter, which is human feelings, good feelings towards others, moral structures. Sometimes in the midst of intellectually trying to find a solution for something, the heart goes missing.
Right.
The Bhagavatam is a beautiful example of that. You get back your heart in the Bhagavat.
So this is interesting. If you were to, let's take two scenarios. There is a CEO who walks in and comes to you and says that, sir, how can I put the element of consciousness or spirituality to be more profitable? Any CEO would want to be more profitable. That's the business. Do you think what is going to be his key takeaway from Bhagavad Gita?
When you say consciousness, you are referring to the spiritual, but I would say consciousness is the basic element of our existence. We are conscious of the world because of the consciousness in us. Otherwise, we won't even be conscious of the world. So, when you purely say the word consciousness, it means that which is the essence of our being.
Right.
Which is slightly different from spiritual consciousness. Technically, spiritual
Can you explain that?
Yeah, spiritual consciousness means to be aware, basically, that we are derivatives of the pure consciousness, which is called the Brahman. We are stepped down derivatives of that consciousness. Without that consciousness, which is all pervading and which we believe is not a product of the brain, but rather the brain is working because of this consciousness. That consciousness, when you understand that we are all sparks of that in a small way, then you become spiritually conscious. And this consciousness is interesting because even in the world, we search for happiness, right?
Yes.
Everybody searches for happiness. This is because there is an innate built-in understanding in the human mind or the human consciousness that there is this joy somewhere hiding and we need to grasp it.
Yeah.
The only thing is we think it can be grasped by acquiring and gathering, when actually it is acquired when one let goes and relaxes. Not giving up. Letting go is different from giving up.
Yeah, please throw some light on this. How is it different?
Giving up means, okay, I'm upset with this world, I'm not getting any happiness, so I'm leaving everything and I'm going off to the Himalayas to meditate. You cannot stay for more than a week, you will come back like a homing pigeon. But letting go means, I decide this world is the same even if I go to the Himalayas or where I'm staying here, because when I go to the Himalayas I carry my mind. The mind is a mischief maker, not the world. Right. So, when I say, let me let go of all the negativities, you don't have to bring any positivity. You let go of the negativities and all that is left is the positive essence of our consciousness.
This is very interesting process now. How do you define that?
Let me which has been defined since the Vedic times as Satchidananda. Now, this word, people think it is three words, Sat, Chit and Ananda. Sat meaning the reality, the true real as opposed to what we think is real. Different people have different ideas of reality. I am saying the true reality, which is behind all the ideas we have about reality, about real, Chit means it is not a material object, but it of the essence of consciousness. Chit means that which is conscious. Mind and so on. Mind, Atma and so on. And Ananda is its intrinsic quality. You don't have to get it from anywhere outside. Its intrinsic quality is Ananda, which means blissfulness. So to put it together and it is Satchidananda, right? This is the supreme. Now, if I, as we know, and you know or you don't know, I don't know, you and I and all of them here, we are sparks of the divine consciousness. True. Therefore, that Ananda part is very much there in us. And this is what we are searching for. Unfortunately, we think you can find it outside, but you have to find it inside. If you find it inside, the outside also will become in order, beautiful, expand, grow, become everything. When I say let go, I am only saying let go of the negative.
Right.
You don't have to give up anything. I know people who live with just a small loincloth and are always thinking of, oh, it would have been nice if I had this, I had that. Makes no sense.
It's endless.
It's endless. So the satisfaction is, when you find that inner satisfaction,
yes,
and inner bliss, which is your true essence, you will find that the world also puts everything into order. There is no need to worry about it.
Wish this was so easy. So to make it easy, I think, usually whenever you would have seen interviews towards the end, people have rapid fire. I am going to call it rapid flower, no fire. Enough of fire in the corporate world. For everyone out there who's too much into number crunching and business and just moving towards that goal of finding happiness outside. Happiness is nothing but numbers for us, unfortunately.
Which is wrong.
I want you to tell everybody, thinking everybody is as naive as they were in their first job, some keywords that I have put down for you. If you can explain them in 2 lines for them to understand, because this is going to get a little heavy. And I'm sitting with you, I want a lot to be, taken out.
I try to keep it as simple as possible.
So the first keyword is meditation. How do you define it in 2 lines?
Right. In 2 lines is difficult to define. I would suggest that this book brought out by Penguin is a very good book on meditation. I've tried to make myself as simple and clear as possible.
Wonderful.
It's available on Amazon. But to your question, in a few words, I would like to say, meditation is not concentration. You would be shocked. You would think that meditation is complete letting go, relaxation. When you have a mind which is relaxed, which is not caught up by anything, which is not striving to push anything in, then you are in a relaxed state, and that is meditation. You cannot meditate. You can fix your attention on something, but meditation, the continuation of this happens only when the mind is quiet. So from my understanding, meditation is not a forced affair. It's not a trying to gather the mind which is running around like a rebel. No, meditation is when you have calmed down, when you have quietened down, when you have relaxed. Something takes over. And that something that takes over is more intelligent than your most logical mind put together.
That's important.
Very important.
What is that thing?
That is, then you are connecting out of your ordinary mind, which depends on mathematical calculation. Okay, now that we are on the subject, it is a well-known fact nowadays that the human brain has 2 parts.
Right.
I mean, it has 2 lobes, that is well known,
right.
But it also operates. There is one part of the brain which is intuitive.
Right.
There is another part of the brain which is calculative. It is the calculative mind that decides that Poonam is sitting here, M is sitting here, there is a distance between us. This is all by the calculating mind. I don't have something, I have to acquire it. Right. All this is part of the calculating mind. I think, unfortunately, in the corporate world, this calculating mind has taken over totally. Yes. Because there is also an intuitive mind, intuitive brain. According to the brain specialist, the right brain is your intuitive brain and the left brain is your calculating brain.
Right.
Right. So, meditation in this context, because sometimes solutions which cannot be found by your calculating brain may be found through your intuitive brain. It can come in a flash.
How do you charge that up?
Wait a minute, let me. So, therefore, I would say to your meditation, the word which you
Right.
wanted me to define, is to be able to shift from the calculating brain to the intuitive brain at any given moment. This training can be called actual technique of meditation. Fortunately, it's linked to the breath. Fortunately, for every human being, it is linked to your breathing. By altering your rhythm of breath, you can actually change your mindset from the calculating to the intuitive or from the intuitive. We need both on this earth. But unfortunately, it's the calculating brain that takes over and the intuitive brain. Now, it's also the intuitive brain which thinks about compassion, which thinks about others. It has no physical barriers.
Right.
When you say corporate, the word is wrongly defined. A corporate is not a coming together of companies. Corporate is bringing your intuitive and your calculating brain to cooperate.
Wonderful.
This is corporate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hope you understand what I am trying to say. There was a Hindi movie called Do or Do Panch. Because things like affection, love, expansion, compassion, charity cannot be put into logic.
Right.
Cannot be do plus do is char. It can be do or do panch. Possible. So, to be able to handle this, to shift between these two planes is what I would call consciousness.
Right.
And conscious living.
Right.
Sorry, you said.
So from here we move, I think you already picked the breath work, pranayama. That's what you said?
Breath work, yes.
The change of?
Yes, because there was this neuro scientist, neuroanatomist, a lady from the United States. I was going to have an interview with her last time in the US, but for some reason we couldn't adjust the dates. Her name is Jill Bowles. Jill Bowles had a stroke. She knew what it was because she was a biologist.
Right.
She had a stroke in which her left brain was totally paralyzed because of the rupture of a blood vessel here. Spill, so it got. Before it happened fully, she could get help, but that's another story. And then she recovered, of course, and she has written a book called My Stroke of Insight. Now, what happened to her? She was a normal person like us, like everybody else. With this stroke, when her left calculative brain, which says, you are Jill Bowles, when you're sitting, only this space belongs to you, that is something else, and so on. We expect sane people to think that way, I agree.
Right.
Was completely shut down. The right brain began to take over. When the right brain began to take over, she discovered that all her ideas of her own location, space, time, everything vanished. She was not only here, she was there, she was everywhere. And when the bird chirped, she was chirping. It was not the bird. This sounds like a Vedantic experience. It is not the bird, it was not, when the wind blew, it was she blowing. It was not as if she is separate from this world. Why? Because the left was totally paralyzed. Generally it doesn't happen. But yeah. So, she wrote this book called My Stroke of Insight. She recovered. After she recovered, they discovered the secret that in this world, to lead a happy life and to bring happiness to others, you need to share the left and the right brain traits, So, yeah, so what she probably is not thought about or understood, which I was trying to explain to her, but it didn't work out.
Right.
Maybe next time, is that the breath is intimately connected to your left and right brain. In Yoga Shastra, we have something called Ida and the Pingala. The Ida is the left, the Pingala is the right. channel, right? And the Pingala is connected to your right nostril and the Ida is connected to the left nostril. Now the Ida goes from here, crosses and comes to the right side, intuitive brain. So the left nostril and the left breathing is connected to the intuitive brain, and the right, which goes from here and then crosses and comes to the left, is your calculating mathematical brain, right? So they cross somewhere here. So if you can learn a kind of breathing exercise which we call breath work, Gurdjieff made it famous by calling it breath work, pranayama. You can actually reduce the functioning of and increase the functioning on the other side, or vice versa, at your will.
So is it fair to say that lots of professionals would feel that they are less creative? You can switch your expertise?
Yes. So I am saying all these people should be taught some kind of pranayama. First the understanding that this is necessary, and then the pranayama by which they can shift. But it will be a great thing to do.
Yes.
I am wondering why I am not patenting it.
The technique of shifting the brain and the intelligence.
Yeah.
And this also becomes very important in today's time, because constantly we are looking for upskilling. You know, gone are the days when 20 years ago you had some expertise and that is going to be relevant today.
Of course, it's gone.
So it's gone.
I am very much a pro technology man.
Right.
I am very much for the digital world.
Right.
You know, but it can be like, if you don't have the digital world, we won't be doing this now.
We won't be doing this.
So it can be used for superseding the digital.
Correct.
Using the digital.
Absolutely.
As a technique.
As a technique. So now I'll quickly move on to, I think you've already answered a little bit about consciousness, but I'm very sure my understanding of consciousness is also very, very limited, where I need to pick your brains more towards as we go along. In short, yoga.
Yoga?
Definition of yoga as per you.
This is interesting. I can give you the exact definition that the great teacher Patanjali, who is the writer of the text called the Yoga Sutras,
Right.
which is the standard textbook on any yogic practice. Patanjali said, defining yoga, yoga's chitta vritti nirodha, which means yoga is the getting rid of all the distractions of the mind stuff.
That is yoga.
Yoga. All the asanas, all the they all meant to bring this about, because asanas also deal with your system of ductless glands, the endocrine system in our human body.
Yeah.
The asanas deal in some way with these, not only muscles. So when they are put in order, then your mind is free of distractions. Suppose I say, I am feeling very happy and nice today and very blissful, doing nothing at all. That means there is a good amount of serotonin rushing in your bloodstream.
Yeah.
Yoga can make it happen at will or take it off if necessary. This is yoga. So now what happens? If yoga's chitta vritti nirodha is taken as a definition for yoga, it means when you free the mind of all distractions, which is possible through pranayama, through meditation and so on, then what happens? That mind which is free of distractions and opposites, tension and depression and too much excitement and so on, such a brain becomes the tarmac from where you can take off to the higher levels of being, which is pure consciousness. And what comes from there would be very useful to the earth here.
Right. One question is coming, I'm interrupting the rapid flower round that we are going through right now, is what, I'm talking about the very accomplished people in the world.
Yes.
Steve Jobs,
Yes.
or for that matter Rajnikant, Virat Kohli from India, because lots of our audience is going to be Indians. And for that matter, the ex-Beatles, George Harrison, they all went on to read the autobiography of Yogi. What brings top leaders at top of their game to then look for spirituality? What is there?
Because they reach somewhere, but in some cases, Rajnikant was a good friend, so I can tell about it, he won't mind. The thing is, Even before he reached the highest level of his cinematic fame, he was already a yoga practitioner. He practices Kriya Yoga. I know it, and he does it so well. And he's a good human being. I think these two things plus hard work pushed him up. Of course, there is luck. We cannot say no. This is what must. He's still a good human being. He's not, he may be famous, but I went to his house the other day and we were having a cup of tea, coffee, and then he came to know that Akash is my son-in-law. So he said, I'll talk to him. So I connected the phone. Akash said he fell off from the chair because he said, there is Rajini here. Hello, Akash. I mean, that simplicity, you know, that humility, all of these guys you mentioned, most of them have.
Yeah.
It is that which pushed them up. Plus, Steve Jobs, Rajnikant, somebody else you mentioned, the Beatles. They all did not go there and have spiritual experience because they were dissatisfied with what they got. But they, in fact, their whole satisfaction was from the beginning connected to this spiritual movement. It's not as if they
one day ended up just listening.
It's not like that. They were seriously thinking that there must be something beyond, and then they caught this. When they caught this, they realized that this is most important than the millions you make. There was a man called Napoleon Hill who wrote a book many, many years ago. My grandfather gave me the book because he thought I was running away to the Himalayas. He said, this guy. So he gave me, it's called Think and Grow Rich. Now, I read that book. Of course, that didn't prevent me from going to the Himalayas. Then many years after I came back, I read his another book which defines happiness. And there he says, money is not happiness. Same author. Money is not happiness. You can have as much money, but you need not be happy. Right?
But isn't it the starting point of happiness?
State of mind.
State
It
of
may
mind.
not be. Some people there are very poor who are happy, and some people who are very rich who are happy or not happy. So it's not dependent on that. This is what I'm trying. There was a guy in the village on the roadside lying on a charpai. It is like this hot day, so just a loincloth, smoking a bidi. I'm not saying smoking a bidi is good, but anyway. And then a corporate guy goes to him and says, "Hey, what are you doing, man? Wasting your time." So what is it that, oh, you do this, okay, then you'll get this much, okay, then you do this and do this and do this, then you get a lot of money, then you can relax. He said, man, I'm already relaxing, why are you troubling me?
Right.
You see, so while in this world it has become a norm to make money and to become big, all that is fine, because you cannot escape from it. It's part of your life. Deep down you should know it has nothing to do with true happiness. True happiness is a state of mind. I know rich who are happy and poor who are happy. Not linked.
So is it safe to say that sometimes important to keep the money aside?
Surely. Surely. You make as much money as you want. There's nothing wrong with that. But don't do it by creating problems for others.
Yeah.
I know people who feed ants every morning with sugar and don't mind bumping off their business associates. I mean, this is not ahimsa.
You said it.
Something has to be there.
Yeah. I don't think this
Human
is
values.
important. This is very important. This brings me to, actually it's right here. I think you know what I'm going to ask because you're leading to that.
I'm not.
So this brings us to karmas. We all think, I think there's one misconception, or what it is, I don't know, that we end up doing what we want to do, and then it is a very cool space to come back and say that next birth we'll take care of it.
Yes,
you know, it's not to be dealt right now.
Exactly.
Let's do what we have to.
Yeah, exactly. So now what happens is they don't realize. They could have as well done it now. Why postpone it to the next life?
Please help me understand the karma theory.
The crux of the karma theory is that every effect has a cause. There is no effect anywhere which does not have a cause. So today, if I am in a situation and if I am in a particular position, it's because something I might have done in my past to deserve that, right? if I don't find that in this life, then it must have been before, if you believe in past life. I do. So, the crux of the theory is that you reap what you sow. Now, you may not even be aware when you have sown it.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. But anyway, so at death we know that everybody reviews their many lives to see what we have done, but normally we don't know. So, you cannot go back and tinker with what you did then. Suppose you did something. You can't go back and tinker, right? Because it is over. And
I'll interrupt. Very juvenile question. What is karma? Like, I talking to you as a karma?
No. Karma simply means action.
Right.
The word karma means action. Activity, action, any. And the theory of karma is that what action takes place at any time is the result of some cause somewhere. And if you can't find the cause in this life, you try to locate it in another life. This is the definition of karma. Now, I am saying you cannot go back and tinker with what happened there.
Yes.
No way.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't know what the future is.
Yeah.
Because it is generally a projection of what we are now, the future. We don't know. So, what do we have with us now? So, instead of worrying about what is the cause of the situation I am in, can I change the situation so that the future I won't have this problem? That's the only thing I can do. The other thing I cannot do. People say, oh, because of some I killed a snake, sarpa, some 3 birds back, so I have to go to this place and do some puja and get rid of that curse. Nothing is going to happen, believe me. Don't kill snakes now. So that in the future you don't have that problem.
Yes.
This is the theory of karma. Or people usually blame karma. I'm like this because of my. Well, they don't understand what the meaning of the word karma is. Karma is for every effect there is a cause. And since you cannot do anything for what you did, now if you follow proper guidelines and lead a proper life, this problem will not occur to you in future. Not even future life, in this life.
In this life. This takes me back to the Bhagvad Geeta. Is that it is known as a verse of, manual for human beings. Is it so?
Look, there are many kinds of human beings. Although basically they are the same, they differ in many traits because of many influences. The Gita is basically meant for this world, people who live in this world, in the middle of this battlefield of life. Gita was not preached in the forest or in the caves or in a sannyasi's monastery. It was preached in the middle of a battlefield to Arjuna, Kurukshetra battlefield. So, we are all Arjunas in this context, as far as the Gita is concerned. And how to live in the middle of this battlefield called the world.
Right.
That means it is accepted that it is a battlefield. Kshetra, Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, that is how it begins. Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetre, Samveda Yuyutsava, Mamakam Pandavascheva, Kim Kurvate. This is the question of the king, the blind king, asking Sanjaya, who is sitting in his house, probably he has a remote TV, I don't know. He's asking what is happening in the battlefield, and he looks and says, this is what is happening. So, we don't know how, but so the words used is Dharma Kshetre, Kurukshetra, that in this battlefield of Kurukshetra, which is a battle of Dharma, a battle of human life, Dharma, what's happening? This is the question. So, this is meant for all of us who live in this world and wage this battle daily. Arjuna is depressed. Krishna is trying to pull him up and says, get up. What happened to you? You were okay till now. Stand up. So, the Gita says there is no way other than fighting. If you are faced with challenges, don't say it is my karma and go to sleep. Fight it. Find out how you can resolve it. For that, your support is your inner Atma. This is the teaching of the Gita. that inside you there is a part of the divine which is mighty and powerful and blissful. So get there so that you are directed to how to act in this life.
Right.
It doesn't say go away from life. Gita specifically says changing your robe or shaving your head or running off is not sannyas. Sannyas is living in this world and being free of the opposites.
Right.
This is the Gita.
Now I want to know, and you to tell everyone, in today's generation, all youngsters, you ask a 18-year-old, they would be confused. I think kids up till 5 years are not confused.
About what?
About what to do in life, what is their career. Till 5, all kids know, I want to be a pilot. You ask a small kid, they would have a very definitive answer.
Yeah.
By the time you are 18, 19, youngsters, even for that matter 25, for that matter sometimes 30, and it goes on. We are confused. I want you to give some reflection of your life. 19 years old you were, in your book you write about it, and you left, you decided to leave and go to Himalayas. How did this happen?
To start with, even at the age of 5, when you say people know what to do, I knew that I was not going to be normal like a normal child. But I sustained it. Many people it just dissolves and goes off. Then they're confused, they don't know what to do. I kind of didn't allow it to dissolve. I sustained it. Various reasons, I got some help from some people also, but I sustained it so that when I became a teenager, I also went through all the things that teenagers goes through. You would think that Trivandrum, being a small little capital of a far south state, teenagers, no, all teenagers are the same. We have gone through street fights, we have gone through drunken fight, we have gone through all this, and in our university, because of the leftist narcotics were easily available, we've gone through all that. But I sustained that feeling which I had at the age of 5 inside me alive, that this is not life, there is something beyond. And I thought that there were sages in the Himalayas who probably can help me. While going through all this, for instance, you may not know this, in Kerala, if you go to college, now it is not there so much. You pass through a small thing called a Lenin clinic.
Okay.
When you come out of that, you are usually red, fully red. Yeah, because that's what you're taught, Lenin. Joseph Stalin, Lenin, Karl Marx. This we come out reading the Das Kapital and so on. So I also went through that, but there was this thing inside which was sustaining. So while I studied and went through all that normally would happen, deep down I knew where my vocation lay, what I was going to do. I didn't allow it to go off. It's not so easy. So at the age of 19, I left. Not that I didn't see life. I seen life and I said, no, there's something more. This is not enough. In fact, some good friend of mine, I won't say who because they're high up politically now, asked me, I thought that your inside will be red, but how did it turn to saffron? I mean, saffron not in political sense.
Yeah.
Spiritual. I said, if you put a drop of yellow, compassion, into the red, it will turn orange.
Wonderfully explained.
Yeah. So,
again, the compassion is the word with C.
Yes. Compassion is when you know that really you are not different from other human beings, except in outside traits. Deep down, you have fear, you have anger, you have jealousy, you have love, you have affection, you have everything is there for all human beings. When you see that, you see we are all part of the same mind, one mind. So if one mind changes, it can change many minds, because we are the same. Quite early in my life, I realized this, maybe 17, 16, 17. When I was 15, a very beautiful girl who was very close, my neighbor came to me and said, shall we run away? And I am wondering, why should I run away? I am quite happy. it didn't enter my mind. Why? What for? But she thought something, I was thinking something else. So what I'm trying to say, from childhood, my mind, I sustained the feeling that beyond the ordinary satisfactions of life, there's something beyond.
Right.
And it needs to be discovered, because in the discovering of it is the flowering of the mind.
Now, this stage, a lot of people in the midst of businesses, the corporate jungle, that's why we say corporate jungle. And we call it a jungle because just like animals who live a very programmed life, for people in the corporate world also, it is either you do it or somebody else will do it. So there's a constant fear. For animals is fear of life. For us it's simple fear of corporate life. If I won't do it, somebody else will do it, somebody else will go ahead. And hence, you pick up any research, global research, Harvard Business Reviews or Gallup researches, especially during the COVID time, and now that all the C's are coming in picture. Calculators were invented, we got fearful, oh my god, my job is going to go because calculators would do. From there we shifted to computers. Again, lots of people got scared of computers. This, when I'm talking to you 2023,
AI
is an AI. AI is a part of our life. Now we are talking about the next Z, which is ChatGPT. It's going to take away our jobs. Though we have to work to earn, to put food on the table, but I am giving you a sense of representative of being the corporate world, how fearful our lives are. And the stress levels are like this.
May I say something? This fear is unfounded. When the calculator came, people were afraid they are still surviving. So in the same way, when artificial intelligence is it is not going to take over, because the innate intelligence in the human beings cannot be taken over by anything that is artificial. I'm telling you this. So this fear is misplaced. There is nothing. Yeah, there may be a temporary sorting out,
right,
which happens. Before any new thing happens, there is always a manthan. Like the old Samudra Manthan. When they did the Manthan, the Devas and the Asuras, the first thing that came out was poison. So that poison, when it comes out, it is dangerous. I can understand. But it will go. Finally, the Amrit has to come out. So the fear is unfounded. One need not fear this. One should, on the other hand, try to figure out how to balance this. How we can, in spite of all this, still lead a good life, balanced life, and how we can make it useful for us to move forward, instead of looking at it as an enemy. You said the example of animals in the jungle. Believe me, the animals in the jungle are not afraid of any hunters, because now all hunting is stopped. And they kill only when they are hungry to eat. They don't kill for sport. They lead a much happier life than us in this concrete jungle.
Concrete jungle, yes.
So it's like that. So I think the fear is misplaced. The human mind is so ingenious. It will find ways and means
to conquer it.
After all, it's artificial intelligence. We are the real one.
Yes, absolutely. I think that confidence one. But we are so averse of change. Why are human beings so averse of change?
Because they're afraid of change. Whenever change. But the fact is, we should understand that change is inevitable. This, what Prakriti? The definition of the word Prakriti in the ancient Sankhya Sutras. Sankhya is the philosophy worked out by the great sage Kapila. It's very ancient, so ancient that in the Gita Krishna says, among the sages, I am Kapila. But there is this funny controversy going on if Kapila was an Indian or a foreigner, because Kapila means blonde.
Okay.
Kapila, one over there who is like Pila.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in the Sankhya Sutras, this whole world, the word used is Prakriti. Prakriti is called Prakriti because it is divisive in nature. Prakaroti iti Prakriti. This is how it begins, the Sankhya Sutra. That which divides and multiplies is Prakriti. So there is always this division going on because we are all part of Prakriti. All human beings, every living being, non-living, everything is part of Prakriti. Now, along with Prakriti, there is an element in us called the Purusha.
What is that?
That is the spirit, the consciousness. So when you understand that this is there in us and tune into this, no amount of division is going to have a strong effect on us. The discovering of this is yoga. In the last stage of yogic practice called Kaivalya, you realize that there is one Purusha who is all pervading. It is the spirit, the consciousness. It is the essence of all corporate everything. This whole world is a corporate, and this consciousness is the chairman, the chairperson, let's say. I don't want to use the gender. Every human being has this. This is the wonderful news. It's not as if only some people have it.
The privilege, you mean?
Yeah, it's not a privileged thing. It's everybody has it. So, keep this in mind and carry on in this world. I'm sure you will somehow manage to swim through the commotions that happen and come out successful in the end. This is the teaching of the Gita.
When I spoke about that I would be meeting you, interviewing you, one kind of a thought resonated with a lot of people who I connected, and they were very excited to know your views on this. And I am trying to summarize it because in bits and pieces the thought remains the same. The thought is, as you rightly said, focus on now. This is good. This is good. So a memory would be a vritti. Forget about the memories. Forget about the future. Future will bring you fear. So focus on now. The people who are in a troubled state now, for them the escape is look for a good future.
Right.
Build hope.
Agreed. But don't waste all your energies on projecting this. But if you look at the reasons why you are in this state, then only you will be able to solve this problem and move forward. If all the mind, say 80% of the mind goes to what we should do in future, but if you do in future, if you don't avoid the pitfalls that you're already in, you will end up in the same way afterwards, right? So let's see, failure and sorrow are not things to be swept under the rug or escape from. They have to be faced. If you face it, you can solve it. Right? Let me put it this way. What happens is you're depressed, you're very sorry, sorrow has come, and every human being has some sorrow sometime or the other.
Right.
This whole world is like that. Okay. The first chapter of the Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga, the sorrow of Arjuna. It's for everybody. Now, what we do generally, we try to listen to music or we do some, which is okay, I'm not saying no, but I'm looking at the mechanism, why we are avoiding it. We're trying to distract the mind, or we end up getting immersed in the spirit which comes in bottles. That's also spirit, right? So, you're not facing it. If you don't face it, how will you be able to solve it? Now that requires grit, a little bit of courage. You should know where you went wrong. It may be my own doing, or it may be something else, but we have to figure out. For that, don't let anything cloud it. Stay and make a good study of it. It's painful, of course. If you make a good study of it, you will know how to get out of it. Then you project your future and move forward.
And when you say you project your future,
it should not have the elements which, if you have studied properly, staying where you are, you know what to avoid.
The dilemma that comes is, if I can project my future and I can build my future, then I am right now facing the consequences of my past karmas.
Yes, so therefore, if you stay with where you are now and see why it has happened, you will be able to handle it in future. This is what I am trying to say. Otherwise, I am in such a hurry to go into the future that I don't want to study where I am. I have to study myself first. Why am I like this? What is the reason for my failure? If I think it's a failure, somebody might say it's not a failure, it's a success. But it depends on how you look at it. Now, if I agree that it's a failure, I have to stay there before projecting into the future and see where have I gone wrong. All great people, even in the business world and in the worldly things, those who have reached the top are mostly people who have had that vision, who have used failures as stepping stones and not given up.
Right.
You know, there is a fact that Thomas Alva Edison, while trying to make the electric bulb, failed 99 times. 100th time it was a success. We don't know the difficulty he went through. Now you switch on and it's there. You see, he didn't give up. And when somebody asked him, what percent is your inspiration? He said 1%. So what about the rest? He said perspiration.
Yes.
You see, so these are factors that we need to think about and then project the future. While you are doing all this in the corporate world, I have a suggestion, not a suggestion, I have something to say. Don't think only about yourself, even in the corporate world. You are calling it a corporate world, the whole world is your corporate. So think of other unfortunate beings who are suffering, bring them into your fold, try to do something for them. You will be surprised, it comes back as 100 times rise in your own situation, because you are doing a compassionate act. Anybody who, the great steel magnate, I forget his name, started in Pittsburgh, said after making a lot of money, at one point he realized that giving is receiving. And he said, then I started my charities and I started giving, and I found the more I gave, my wealth multiplied 100-fold. It's a law. It is a law made by the universe so that those who don't have are looked after by those who have. This should be a very important part of the corporate world.
This was actually my next question, that how do you understand corporate
That's why
business
I'm
world?
telling you
You're preempting all the questions one by one. How do we put the element of spirituality in the real sense in the corporate world?
True. It's like this. First, spirituality should not be misunderstood like some kind of a pipe dream or some kind of, or rituals and things like that, which of course have their place. I'm not saying that. Spirituality should be understood as to recognize the spark of the divine in all living beings, which of course includes human beings, because human beings are the only ones who can be aware of it. Animals cannot be aware of, self-awareness is not there. So, keep this always in mind. Why are we expanding our empire? To be happy. So that little bit of happiness others also deserve. If you have that mentality, I'm telling you, even your physical wealth will go up in leaps and bounds, because it's the universal working through you then. Look, if there is a universal compassion, if there is, and that being wants to help, and when you help somebody, you are an instrument. You're not doing much. The wealth doesn't belong to you. The wealth belongs to the universe. It so happens, through good luck or through your hard work or through some blessing, you have acquired a major portion of it. It's your duty to share it with others. Even in India, I'm on the steering committee of the C20, which advises on the G20.
Right.
All I'm trying to say, it's not a problem of shortage of wealth in this country. It's a shortage of distribution, proper.
True.
So, while it's certainly necessary in the corporate world to think of acquiring, if you want to change it a bit and make it also a happy corporate life, add the element of sharing. Bring some ethics into this.
That's the key word for the corporate world again, ethics. With the advent of and how the future is looking, with AI becoming a very important part of all businesses, sir, how do you see, and what is it that you want to throw, taking inferences from Bhagvad Geeta or from karma theory or from any Vedic literature which we are not aware of? How do we build more ethical organizations? Because now what used to be decentralized power is going to be very, very centralized at many ways. some of your officers in your organization could really have a lot of data, which is the oil for our country,
Absolutely.
for our being, for our businesses, or for just our particular corporate house.
Right.
Why leaders need to be more ethical in today's time is my question.
Can we talk about corporate leaders, not political leaders?
Corporate leaders.
Corporate leaders should understand the theory that while it is perfectly legitimate to make money, to improve your business, to expand and so on, it should never be at the cost of causing harm to others. This is possible. It's not competition that is important, but efficiency. If I concentrate on what I want to do best, excellence,
Yeah.
forget about competition, who cares? I want to do something excellent, right? Now I am not looking at that fellow is doing something good. No, you, more energy and thought you spend on excellence, the less you think about competition, and you will certainly be much better.
Right.
Competition is a comparison.
Yes.
Don't compare. My suggestion is go in, try to be excellent in your own fields, expand as much as you want. Don't even look at that guy, let him expand on his own. What does it matter? Look, I come across a lot of people who today are also very rich people. I don't ask anything from them. I ask them when we have something doing like a hospital or something which is charitable or a free school to run, then I go. And they realize that when you help, in a way, the karma that is generated through that help helps them to become bigger and better. This mechanism some people haven't discovered, they should discover.
Please explain this mechanism a little more. This is interesting.
It's like this. The moment you begin to share what you have with others, I'm not saying give everything away, no.
Yeah.
Then there is an inner psychic process that takes place by which the universal supplies you more. I'm not joking, it's true. I know persons, I don't want to name anybody, who have been very close to me, who used to be down and out, who are up and going now. The only reason I can tell you that this happened, they all work hard, they're all technical in their own way, they know what they're doing. The only reason why this happened is because they have this sense of service
Yeah.
and truthfulness.
And this starts with your
thankfulness.
own employees first.
Yes, and thankfulness. When you're down and out, and if somebody helps you, don't forget that person ever.
Right.
If you do, you can go up there, but you will fall down in no time. This is the law of karma in this matter.
And I'd like to understand what is the science or theory behind the people who we meet in life and work together. Like for example, is there a karmic theory to who is going to be my supervisor, my boss, who is going to be my subordinate? How does this functions?
I cannot pinpoint that because I'm not sure about this, but I can certainly say that usually there are two kinds of people who come together. One is those who can support each other. The other kind is one who don't support each other.
Absolutely right.
This is possible, but that is the way of the world. So you cannot totally remove yourself from those who do not support you positively, because this is the world situation. They can be like that. You cannot do anything, but try to look at the positive side.
What should be one's state of mind when you are in an environment of work? Work environment is not very conducive, as you rightly said.
There are only two ways.
Yeah.
One is quit and find a better environment, or try to work with them and see if their minds change when they see that you are doing a good thing. There are only two ways possible. And when I said quit, it doesn't mean that if you quit, the whole world is gone. There are other opportunities open for you. It's not like that.
Right.
But try hard. Don't do it like in 10 days, I don't like this. And even from those, there are many useful lessons you can learn. Many useful lessons.
That mindset needs to be built.
Yeah. And first of all, let me tell you, courage is a good word. You should be brave. You should not allow anybody to roller you down. Doesn't mean you should be aggressive. This is not what I'm saying. Some people they just smile and keep quiet, but they won't change. They won't move. If they find something is good, they'll stick to it. They may not aggressively attack you or talk to you, but there's a way of working cool.
Right.
When you're caught up in emotions, usually your judgment is affected.
Yes.
The way of working without that, what the Gita defines as sarvatra samabuddhaya, which means under all circumstances, keep the mind tranquil. It goes a long way. In fact, it's a weapon.
Yes. I was just about to come to this, that if you were to define few key takeaways, 3 to 5 from Bhagvad Geeta, for all the business people, corporate people, what would be your top 5 key takeaways that they must remember?
1, that it was preached in the middle of a battlefield and you were in the middle of the battlefield of business. 2, that Arjuna is not allowed to give up, but asked to pick up his bow and move forward. 3, Krishna tells Arjuna that you can't do this successfully, you cannot, unless your mind is centered on the idea that you are a spark of the absolute powerful divine being. You are also a spark of that. So all that strength is in you, in your heart. 4, what I said just now, sarvatra samabuddhaya, at all circumstances be tranquil. This is also the sign of great generals. They don't get easily moved emotionally.
Right.
I'm not a pro-war person, but I'm just saying, even generals. Why are they called generals? Because they don't go into the details and poke their fingers into specifics. They're general.
Right.
Right? So, 4 and 5, according to the Gita, is sarva bhuta hite rata. Well, keep the welfare of all living beings in your heart. And when I say living beings, don't exclude human beings from it.
Yes.
If these 5 are key points from the Gita, then I think one can lead a peaceful, happy, successful life, corporate or non-corporate. It's what I would call a Catholic way of living. Although now the Catholic word has got a wrong name. They think it's a sect. But if you look at the dictionary, the word Catholic means all embracing.
All are one.
A Catholic way of life or a Catholic mind is one that embraces everybody.
Why do you think now people have become more open to looking at spirituality?
Yes.
What has happened in the world? What is the cosmos going on?
Because finally people have become wiser. People have become more intelligent. It's an expansion, constant expansion. So we are no longer people who live only with the temporal lobe. There are other lobes in the brain which are beginning to work, which have been neglected throughout.
Right.
Physiologically, I'm saying. So it is the time for you to move into a new age. So therefore these are becoming active, so you realize the importance of these. Plus the understanding through the experience of others as well as myself, oneself, that these things are temporary, anytime they can be shaken up. Even a very big man is shaken up suddenly by some Heidelberg reporter.
Yes.
Right? Didn't work, of course, back with double force. But what I'm trying to say, so people have realized that you need a support other than just material support.
Very rightly said. So, in the spiritual world, your lineage is the Nath lineage.
Yes.
In the spiritual world, the pratha of Guru and Shishya is so strong.
Absolutely.
Very similar to this, what I have seen is also, you know, people go faster, easier, they have the safety net when you build that network.
Yes.
Could you please explain from that point of view how building that, you know, that safety net, let me call it the safety net?
It's very important. I'll tell you why. Because mentors are usually people who have experience in the running of businesses and whatever activities they're doing, even in politics. So They know when you walk across uncharted territory, they know where the humps come, they know where the pits come, they know what to do. So it's always good to have a mentor who can help you to go through this. I have seen, there are some people who are self-made, but even they have had some mentor at some point or the other, from
Any
whom they learn.
example from your spiritual side?
Myself?
Yes.
I don't think I walked anywhere without Maheshwarnath Babaji, my Guru, who was not traditionally like Guru in inverted commas, but somebody who was like a good friend, whom you could talk to,
Right.
you could understand, who you could criticize. Now, of course, I regret for it, but we could. That kind of mentor is very useful in taking us across various fields. But I'm telling you, even more than your corporate field, the spiritual field is some ways more, in many ways, quite corporate. There are people, in fact, there are people who built up empires using the spiritual connotations and so on. So, to sail across this without getting caught up, I got my mentor's help. So, I would always say it's good to have a mentor in your, whatever you're doing.
So why are you not so much seen? Why don't we see you? I had to really find you. I had to do a lot to find you.
Because we don't advertise. I think that if something is genuine, if a flower blooms, the bees will come somehow or the other. You don't have to take it around the marketplace. So,
put it the right way.
Yeah.
I would lead to a very fundamental question from the entire spectrum of the community I'm trying to represent. And this is, you may find it to be a very juvenile question, but I think end of it, when we are into it, as you said, we all are Arjunas, we have to do those acts, right? So very fundamental, very simple question, very simple scenario, and which I think hundreds of us will be able to relate. We all know lying is not good.
The what?
Lying.
Lying.
Kids would also know, I also know, everyone would know. Is it okay, karma wise, to lie for your organization, for the good of your organization? It's a very juvenile thinking. For example, I'm sitting in a negotiation and I'm such a culprit of doing this. When we are negotiating, we are constantly saying things that are not right because I want that cause to be good for me. But my intention is good for my organization, but I am in the midst.
I think what we can do in this is find out the genuine good things in your organization and put them across instead of trying to bluff your way through. Do a lot of research and see what is really good about this, why are we different, find out first, study it properly and put it across. Then you don't have to tell lies. You know what happens with lies? Some point or the other a lie would be discovered.
Yes.
So what is the point? In fact, if you say the truth, you may not get immediate benefits, but in the long run you might benefit. This is something which you need to think carefully. The whole world now, the business world, normal world, everything depends on lies. Media is lies.
Yes.
Advertisement is lies. When I say lies, I mean they're not entirely the truth.
Exaggerated.
Exaggerated.
Even what I mean to say is exaggeration.
Exaggerated. They're not entirely the same, they're exaggerated. And everybody likes free gifts.
Yes.
Right? So all this is there. In the midst of that, how to operate, this is what you're asking.
Yes.
So I'm saying, find the positive points and put it across. If you expand on the positive points a little bit, like the media does, there is no harm in it. But at the core, it should be right, not how you embroider it.
Right.
You're free to embroider it. I'll tell you, look at the Ramayana. There's also the difference between fiction and fact.
Right.
If I tell you a factual thing, you may not listen to it, you get bored. If I put it in story form, fiction, You might read it and get the exact point which I wanted you to understand. Right? So that amount of fictionalization is okay. Look at the Ramayana, for instance. What is the story? Sita was carried away by Ravan. Rama went and rescued her and brought back. Is that over? It's factual. But how did Valmiki write it? This whole thing is over. So please distinguish between a lie and the embroidery that you give to a fact. Embroidery is all right, but not
sensationalization of facts.
Yes. In the corporate world, only that is possible. We don't have to worry about that.
Right.
In a corporate world, that's the only possibility.
How it impacts individual karmas?
It won't, because you are working on your business.
So safe zone. That's a good news.
Somebody asked us, how do you define a diplomat? He said, he is the guy who lies for your country in another country. You can't hold him responsible for that as a personal thing. It's his job. Who is a lawyer? One who lies. But you can't hold him in his personal life. If he does not lie to his wife or his kids, he is fine. This is his job.
Correct.
Or if you really don't like it, get out of it. Find something which you can do, maybe less profitable, but you may be happier.
Correct. For everyone, this brings me to I have like 30,000 questions, and I don't think I'm very, we can take this question, which is, what's your definition of leadership?
Any leader should at one time have been a good follower. Leaders are not suddenly hoisted upon people. A leader, like a teacher, should have been a good student. Without being a good student, you cannot be a teacher. Therefore, such a leader who has been a non-leader for some time and served another leader who he respects and admires, he will develop certain leadership qualities, which is that those who work for you are not lower or lesser than you, but they are still in an infancy state where they are trying to grow, and therefore always give a sympathetic ear to their suggestions.
Right.
One, because you have been recognized as a leader, you might have to do certain things which may not be universally liked by everyone. But if your actions are in the process of bringing about justice, equality and well-being, then you should do that if you are a leader. You shouldn't think, because I do this, I will become infamous, so I am not going to do it. You have to do it. It's your duty to do it. And the other thing is not to give up. A leader who constantly gives up is a useless leader. I don't know why you should call a guy a leader. One who says, okay, these are weaknesses, I won't give up. I will continue, is a good leader. Then, planning. A leader should not plan only for today. A leader should plan for 20 years hence, at least, minimum.
Yes.
If these qualities are there, and if the leadership is not looking only for its own satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the country or the situation or the organization that he leads, that is a good leader. Not a leader who is only thinking about his own pocket. That's not a good leadership. It's just selfish incarnations of selfishness, let's say.
A lot of leaders, by the definition of their job profile, they would be leaders. But in the midst of the war, the battle of life, the battle of corporate, just like Arjuna, in the absence of Krishna, which is a mentor or a guru, you just...
Therefore, you need a certain mentor.
Right.
A spiritual mentor or a spiritual direction, one who gives direction, or a spiritual advisor is very important for any kind of leadership. Because at times of desperation, they are the ones who can save you and say, okay, relax, let's move forward. If you look back into the history, of this country or many other countries, there always rishis have been advising the kings.
Correct.
They don't want to become kings, they are not interested. But they are advising. And the king also knows that they don't want to take my kingdom, they are trying to help me move forward.
Ethically.
Ethically.
On the moral path.
Morally, also spiritually. That you don't say, I have given up, I am done and finished. No, they say, don't do that, stand up. This is exactly what Krishna is trying to do to Arjuna here. Stand up, move forward. So that kind of mentorship is essential. It can be a person or it can be a body of teachings.
Correct.
Both possible.
So would you advise all the people who are a part of this, youngsters or people who are, in 20 years of their career and what we call midlife crisis and stuff like that, picking up, if it was one thing that you want them to start reading, what would be that?
Bhagavad Geeta. Bhagavad Geeta.
But the mentality is, Bhagvad Geeta, once I retire, just like my forefathers, I will start reciting Bhagavad Geeta.
It's not meant for retirement, it's meant for action. It's something which I am trying to tell everybody. It's not a retirement book. It's for action here and now. Arjuna was not an old man, he was retiring.
Yes.
And look at Krishna, in his major roles, different roles he plays and still remains tranquil. This is a great mentor.
Is it safe to say that leadership should look at becoming like Krishna?
Except that it shouldn't take advantage of Gopika so much.
Yes.
But Krishna is different in the sense that he's divine, human like that. So his actions can't always be explained away by ordinary explanations. So that part of course is there. Apart from that, yes, I would say so.
Since I'm sitting with you, it cannot just start and end with what we do in businesses. But so what's happening in the world, the cosmos, spirituality, why are you here?
Me?
Yes.
I'm here to guide people who come to me and say we need guidance. I'm here to bring about some kind of a balance in the system. I think all the things that are happening which are negative are because of a certain imbalance in this world. So my work is to bring about that balance between the spiritual and the material. There is no hard and fast line dividing the two. And this applies not only to this country, but to the whole world. It's a completely global idea that I'm talking about. When you say global, it means all human beings. The most ancient Vedic dictum, 2000 years ago, Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, let the whole world be happy. So we can't confine it to one geography or locality. This is my attempt.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I am so honored to be talking to you.
Thank you very much. I enjoyed the interview or the discussion, let's say.
Yes, the conversations that energize one's mind. Thank you so much for giving clarity on so many things which we usually are 50-50 about. I think I'm still, comprehending and internalizing what we spoke.
Yeah.
I will also get a lot of clarity once I watch it myself.
Exactly. And also digest it.
And slow digest it, and be able to put what you spoke about, the actionables, in the real life,
Yes.
in the real
That is the most
action.
important test for this. Implementation.
Implementation. Thank you so much, sir. So honored to talk to you. Thank you.